Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Christina, coming to you from the Catio. And I will tell you, it's a rainy day here in Georgia, so you might hear some little bit of thunder in the background. We've had rain on and off all day long. As an update before we get started in today's convo, yesterday I did pass my narcissist on the road, and I was worried that I might have some sort of trigger that would cause panic or anxiety. And I am so happy to report that this is the first time that I had made it without having, seeing him or seeing a photo or hearing, audio of his voice, and had no adverse reaction. So my meditation, my therapy, and me trying to stay as positive as I can and focusing on me and self-care and healing the trauma bond, I think is actually beginning to pay off. Now, on to today's convo. I must first warn you, today's convo comes with a trigger warning because our topic in convo for today is physical abuse from the narcissist. And I will tell you, I've wanted to do this video, but it's also been extremely hard because talking about this sometimes, it's bringing up those wounds that are still open, that are still raw. However, because of how I was able to handle myself with yesterday's situation, where I actually seen him pass me by on the road and I didn't have an adverse reaction, I'm going to try to get through this video. So, the narcissist, and when they physically abuse you. If you have ever been in any situation where anybody is physically abusing you, and I don't care if that's a friend, a family member, an intimate partner, nobody has the right to lay their hands on you. Always remember that. And as the same for us, we do not have the right to lay our hands on anyone back in return, or to create, or worsen a situation. The best thing to do is to always remove yourself from the path of physical harm. But I digress. So, the narcissist, how and does the physical abuse start? Early, maybe in some cases. For me, he built up to it. It started out with little things like he was living with a roommate, his one and only friend that he has. This was back when we lived in Florida. And he became angry, and he actually physically picked me up and opened the door, and when I say throw me out, he didn't throw me to the ground, but he, dropped me down. That was the first indication that he ever had a physical abuse or physically touching me in an inappropriate way. My handbag and my keys were also inside the house, so that prevented me from even leaving the property. I was just locked out of the house. Luckily, finally, after me knocking the door and neighbors starting to see what was going on, he did finally give me my keys and my handbag, and I was able to then go home. Of course, I was the one who had to apologize. So, and that's the pattern. They start doing heinous acts, and it was about 2 weeks. That instance happened 2 weeks after my father had passed away. And I paid the narcissist, because they don't do anything for free. They don't come to help you out of the kindness of their heart. I paid the narcissist to help me move furniture from my father's home so I could get ready to sell it. And he didn't show up. He was out fishing with his roommate, best friend, only friend. So that's what led to the argument. And then he physically thought that it was appropriate to lay his hands on me, knowing that I just lost my father, knowing that was just to see how much he could push the boundaries. And then really a few years went by where there was no physical abuse. But about a year and a half after my father passed away, we moved to Georgia. So I was isolated. And at that juncture, that's when the physical abuse became more violent and not more consistent, but it would happen every few months, maybe every 6 months. But it was always that instance where it would terrify me that, oh, I have to stay, I have to be obedient. You can't argue back with them. And the main night where it really became out of hand was I was laying in bed, and my little dog PJ, my little Chihuahua, was there with me. He was licking himself on the bed, and the narcissist abuser walked in and was like, "Oh, he tried to bite me. He growled at me today." Now, this is a Chihuahua, ladies and gentlemen. Just keep that in mind for the story. So, yes, and the dog never warmed up to him. Didn't like him. Perhaps that's because animals sense what kind of intention they have, what kind of soul the narcissist actually has. And I'm sure he mistreated PJ while I was at work all day and he was sitting home. And so he went to touch the dog, put his hands towards the dog, and the dog turned around and, tried to nip at him, as kind of all little dogs do. But PJ was an older dog. He was, like 15 at the time, and was pretty ornery as well. Well, the moment that PJ turned around to nip at him, he snatched him by the back of his neck and lifted him up, and the dog is squealing, crying in pain. I get up. I'm just sitting up in bed going, please don't hurt him, please don't hurt him, please don't throw him, because that's what he was threatening to do. So he dropped him on the bed. The narc leaves the room. I immediately grab PJ, I take him off the bed, and I set him on a dog bed on my side of the bed next to me on the floor. Kind of check out to see how he's, if he was injured, and what was happening, with his physical being after he was snatched up like that. Well, a few minutes go by, and the narcissist abuser comes back in. And now I'm kind of trapped in this small little area between the closet and the bed, and PJ's behind me. And that was the first time he shoved me down to the ground. And I will be honest, I got up. He walked out of the room after he pushed me down, because I wasn't going to let him get back to PJ. And he left the room, and I was angry. So I will honestly tell you, I said, F you, and I slammed the door and locked it, because you're not going to physically harm me or my dog and think, that's okay behavior. It was the first time he ever physically shoved me. The next thing I know, he was kicking in the door. And when he got in, he again shoved me down onto the bed this time, and he got on top of me and started choking me. And that was the first time I seen the narcissistic rage, or the sociopathic stare, or the death stare. That's the first time I seen the eyes go black. It was like he was disconnected from reality. And when he was choking me, he loved every minute. I can't tell you, even though he was devoid of all of a soul in his eyes, totally checked out mentally, you could just see how he had this still creepy, scary, kind of happy look on his face. I didn't hit him back. I just tried to keep the pressure off my neck, because I do have a thyroid condition, and that is a very sensitive area for me to begin with. So after being choked, that was always his MO after that day moving forward. It was always shove me down, choke me. And another thing he liked to do was, when he would get me down, he would grab me by my hair and he would drag me across the floor and to the door to throw me out. So I got really savvy and make sure when I was getting pulled by, dragged by my hair, I would grab his forearm and be able to hold my weight so that at least it wasn't ripping my hair out, so I wouldn't have any bald spots. Because again, you don't want to be injured, but all this time I'm still protecting. I'm still not saying anything. I am not calling the police. I'm lying to my family and friends. And he was very clever. He never hit. He never punched, because he knew it would leave marks. And I think that was the reason why was because he was arrested for physically assaulting his ex-wife. And he physically assaulted her and also pulled a gun on her. So I think he learned his lessons from that, because he did have to attend anger management, which he always laughed and joked about. I could have taught that class. Okay, well, no, because you're still walking around thinking it's okay to put your hands on people. And it doesn't matter, man or woman. I don't condone a woman placing her hands on a man, and I do not condone a man placing his hands on a woman, or anybody mistreating and hurting an animal. So that was my experiences with narcissistic abuse and rage. I will tell you that it's very difficult to talk about, but I feel like it's important to tell people because some people are embarrassed. I was embarrassed at first. I was ashamed that I was allowing this to happen. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this will be the last time. And it never was. It just becomes second nature. There were nights after he would physically assault me, I'd lay in bed on my side, pretend to be asleep, because I was kind of terrified if I fell asleep, he could come in and potentially hurt me while I was sleeping. So I'd wait to know that he fell asleep before I could even try to relax and try to sleep that night. And that's no way to live. We all deserve better. And nobody has the right to ever lay a hand on you, hit you, punch you, kick you, choke you, restrain you. No one has that right. And that's why, moving forward, one of my boundaries is, if anybody lays a hand on me, that is it. That is a deal breaker, done. I'm walking away immediately. And I hope that you all will too. And I know that if you're in it, or you're freshly new out of it, it's going to be very difficult in the beginning to get over and start to really think about what has happened to you. You're going to go through all the different phases. You're going to sometimes be angry at yourself, and don't be. You know, how could I let this happen? Why did I let it go on for so long? Why didn't I call the police? You were doing the best you could at the time, and you didn't have the knowledge that you have now. So just make sure when you're going through the healing process after leaving a narcissist, and if you've endured physical abuse, be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you would the child version of you. Just remember, this is a journey. This is a learning experience. And we are all going to be tested with things throughout our life. And how you come out from this and how you shine on the other side, that's what's important. Your mental health, well-being, and healing, that's what's important. So, anyways, guys, I really do appreciate you listening to this video. It was a little bit difficult, and I hope it didn't trigger anybody. So, please, if you're in the narcissistic abusive relationship still, get out. Don't let it get physical. And if you have to, just make sure, call the police. Have everything documented. Don't wait for the discard like I did. 18 years of this. 18 years of choking, shoving, dragging, grabbing, hurting my animals. It's not worth it. They're not worth it. They are demonic presences. They have no soul. They do not love, and they do not care about us. So the first step is to make sure you care enough about yourself and have enough self-love to get out. All right, guys. Well, I hope you all have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. If you like this video, give it a like, thumbs up, subscribe, share, anything that's going to help push this kind of content out onto YouTube so other people have a better chance of seeing it and having access to knowing possibly what they are going through. So until next time, guys, take care. Bye.